Hello everyone and welcome to the first episode of Random Guy Talks. So 2022 was a bit of a weird year for my channel. I made a lot of changes. I switched from reactions to reviews, and later in the year I took some breaks. I stopped doing weekly episode reviews, and the reason for this is I've been feeling a little bit less enthusiastic about the channel. I haven't had as much of a desire to post videos here. So I was thinking about what should I do, because while I didn't want to put a lot of time into this, I just didn't feel like it. I also still enjoy talking about these shows and movies with you guys. So what I've decided on, at least for now, is I am going to do a weekly podcast. So I'm going to talk about the movies I saw that week, the shows I saw, episodes, trailers, any news that I think is worthwhile enough to talk about. And I just compile it all into one podcast episode. So this way I can talk about all the things that I enjoy talking about, but I can also keep it a little bit low on the editing side, because for the most part I'll just talk about it, and maybe I'll have like one graphic right beside me. So yeah, that's the compromise I came up with, basically. So here is the itinerary for this episode. So there's a few trailers I saw. I saw a trailer for Proud Family, Louder and Prouder Season 2. I saw the new teaser for the crossover show coming on Disney Plus, and the Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania new trailer. So I'll talk about the trailers first, then I'll talk about the episodes I saw this week, which is The Bad Batch Season 2, Episode 3, National Treasure Edge of History, Episode 6, and the finale for Willow. So, without further ado, let's start with the Proud Family, Louder and Prouder trailer. Alright, so I'm going to talk about this trailer briefly. I don't have much to say on it. It just feels like more of Season 1, that weird sort of humor that I didn't love. And sort of the same theme of family. I don't know if they're going to hit on it more in this season. I think that would be better for the show, rather than focusing too much on those silly adventure of the week. It's not really adventure of the week, silly episodic nature of it. Maybe have the theme of family run through it more, just to connect things together a little bit, and give it a different focus than just the humor and, whatever random theme they decide to tackle in the episode. It just unifies the episodes more. But honestly, I think that's something they're just using for the trailer. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'm going to watch this, honestly, because I did not enjoy Season 1. If I watch it, it'll probably just be out of curiosity. Yeah, another point on this trailer. So they're saying that they're going to release all the episodes at once. I think that may be a bad sign, because they've done this twice with these, narrative type shows. They've done it with Diary of a Future President Season 2. That show got canceled. They did it with Big Shot Season 2. That show probably canceled, from what I've heard. And I've even heard that they weren't even sure if they were going to make a Season 2 for Big Shot. So that might be a bad sign for this show. But honestly, I think I might go differently for this show, because I feel like Season 1 did get some traction. It did have an audience. And I think it does appeal to a younger audience, which, well, that is me. I'm part of the younger audience, but I mean, I personally didn't enjoy it. But it did have a lot of appeal to a certain group of people. So, I don't know. I feel like it would be weird if they canceled it after 2 seasons. But we'll see. Alright, so the teaser for the crossover. Now, this didn't give us much information about how the show will actually be. But ever since this was announced, I've been excited for the show. I read the book. It's really good. Yeah, hopefully the book, this lives up to the book. They are releasing it first on the Disney Channel, which does kind of feel like this show isn't that big of a priority for them, which is a little concerning. Because, generally, if there's like a big Disney Plus show that's supposed to be like this big thing for Disney Plus itself, they would release it first on Disney Plus, and maybe if they want, they could release it later on the Disney Channel. Kind of what they did with Andor. After the whole show came out, they released 2 episodes on ABC, and they kind of did that to get more viewers in on the show. But they are starting out with releasing it on Disney Channel. Like, they'll release it a day before it comes on Disney Plus, which maybe concerns me a little bit about the quality. Maybe they're, because I feel like I haven't seen a lot of Disney Channel shows, but from what I've heard, their quality is not as good as that of a Disney Plus show. Don't quote me on that, I'm not totally sure. But that's just what I've heard. And maybe putting it on Disney Channel means they kind of want to get more viewers in on it, which might mean that they're not confident enough with it on Disney Plus. But we can hope for the best. Maybe the Disney Channel audience just would like the show, it would appeal to that kind of audience, or they're just simply trying to get as many viewers in on the show as possible. I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. Alright, Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania new trailer. This was Kang's trailer. It just really sold me on Kang. I was already excited about Kang, but he looked really cool in this trailer. He was like shooting energy beams out of his hands. He seems very powerful. But a shot that really sold me on him was the shot where he like hands-on just punched Ant-Man in the face. That shot was cool, and it just gives me a feeling that he's not just this super powerful guy, and he's able to do things like hand-to-hand combat, and I feel like, I don't know why, but it gives me the vibe that we're probably gonna get a deep understanding of the character, which we did with Thanos. So I would expect that with Kang, because he's the main villain of this multiverse saga of the MCU. And yeah, overall, just the visuals look really cool. All that quantum realm stuff, getting creative with it. It seems like what Multiverse of Madness could have been, which is a bunch of multiverses and cool visuals, because in different multiverses, which they didn't deliver on, but I think they're going to deliver on the whole quantum realm visuals and all that in this movie, because that's just the main setting. Yeah, and I feel like this movie's just going to be great, because it's kicking off Phase 5, and it's probably going to be very important to the future of the MCU, and I don't think Marvel and Kevin Feige would want to mess that up. There's also an interesting dynamic between some of our main characters, the good guys. Clearly, seemingly, Scott takes Kang's deal to, get the thing for Kang, and then Kang, in turn, gives him more time. And Janet is against this idea, which I think could create an interesting conflict there. There could be maybe different opposing sides to this movie. Maybe one side for doing what Kang wants, one side for not doing what Kang wants. But I feel like what Ant-Man does in this movie would probably be a mistake. that he will either have to fix later, along with the other Avengers, of course, or maybe he dies and Cassie has to deal with it. It could be a little situation where this movie is less for Scott Lang and more a movie about Cassie, right? Because they did that with Hawkeye. Hawkeye was a main character in it, but Kate Bishop was also very important. And even in the first episode, they focused on Kate Bishop more because she's a new character and she's going to be more important later on in the MCU. So they're setting her up. Same thing with Black Widow, setting up Yelena. Similar with Loki, not exactly the same, but similar with Loki was setting up Sylvie. So they might do that sort of similar thing here in Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania and use this to set up Cassie's character arc and where she's at in whatever next project she's a part of. So this was a nice trailer. Excited for the movie. Alright, now I'm going to talk about the finale of Willow. I did not love it. It just felt like a generic fantasy finale. They had that temptation thing. Very generic. That happens. It's very tropey, There's the big magic fight. Again, that happens a lot. We've seen it a lot, especially being a fan of the MCU. Seeing big fights in the finale is just something I'm used to. And it's not the type of thing I love. I'm the type of person, I sometimes like fight scenes, but they've got to be personal and they have to have stakes for the character. I have to feel the fight scene rather than just the spectacle. And I did not feel that at all here. It was just flashing lights and magic and electricity and swords and all that stuff. I just didn't feel it, and maybe part of that is because they didn't make me care enough about the characters earlier on in the show. None of these characters I'm particularly fond of. I feel like none of them have well enough established character flaws that they sort of have to go throughout the show. The only character I really felt had some growth is Kit. But it's kind of easy to give her growth because, honestly, for most of the show, I thought she was annoying and arrogant, and she was sort of against the rest of the group. And, yeah, I didn't love it. But she kind of saves the day in this episode. So, she has some improvement. The other people, Allura got more powerful. Graydon sacrificed himself, but Graydon was already kind of a cool guy. Borman already sacrificed himself as well, so I guess proving his real nature, which is sort of loyalty to his friends and stuff. But I just wasn't feeling it, and I really didn't love this show as a whole. So yeah, not a fan of this finale. Alright, now I'm gonna talk about National Treasure, Edge of History. I've been sort of mixed on the show. I like the first 2 episodes. The past 3, like 3, 4, 5, not a huge fan of. They were a little boring. I think this one picked things right back up. It had a lot of twists and turns. It tricked me with Billy. It tricked me with... what's the guy's name? I'm forgetting. The singer guy. That's probably partly due to me not being great with sort of picking up on little clues, being kind of gullible when it comes to media. But it had me hooked. And, it paid off on that. There was stakes in this episode, especially near the end, and I feel like this episode as well tied into one of the themes I feel the show, which is that friendship theme, and they use that Captain America Winter Soldier analogy. I really love that. Being a big fan of that movie, big fan of the MCU, and I really, in general, love a story that deals with friendship. Um, yeah, I feel like this show was just firing on all cylinders in this episode, and they left a little cliffhanger at the end, um, which all great shows do that. I love it when shows do that because it gives me something to be excited about. So yeah, this is definitely my favorite episode of the show so far. Alright, now for the Bad Batch episode. This episode was nice. It was a solid episode. It didn't like blow me away, but I feel like it sets up something very important for the rest of this season, which is the Clone Rebellion. It sets up Crosshair's arc. Crosshair starting to doubt. Um, the action itself was cool, with those little reflector things that Crosshair shoots and then shoots the droid, and this feels like what I wanted Clone Wars to be, which is these cool missions that are like important to the political side of Star Wars, along with character development. Because a lot of episodes in Clone Wars, they just felt like, oh, here's some cool action. Here's a random thing. There's a lot of filler. There's a lot of stuff that wasn't really important. But I think with the Bad Batch, they, at least, especially with season 2 so far, they hit a balance of doing those random missions, those fun missions that can be fun for kids, while also being able to add in some character development. And I think the seeds planted in this episode are going to be very important for the future of the plot of the show, as well as the characters, especially Crosshair and Cody as well. I'm interested to see if they're going to bring him back later in the season, or if they're just sort of using him as one of those clones that went astray and sort of someone that gives Crosshair something to think about. And yeah, overall, just the dark tone feel like works well with the show. Yeah, whenever they have that tone, just the show, it just hits, and that along with the score amplifying that tone, all of it just worked together to create quite a solid episode. Yeah, definitely my favorite episode of this season so far, and I think the season's just getting better each episode. Episode 2 better than episode 1, episode 3 better than episode 2. So, that's it for this first episode of this podcast. Tell me in the comment section down below, how did you enjoy it? Or do you want me to continue doing this? Or no, what would you like me to change? What would you like me to improve on in terms of this podcast? Because it is new, it is fresh, and I think there will be a lot of improvements that I will have to make over time to really flesh out what this podcast is going to turn out to be. Alright, well, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching.